Abacus Cafe here in South Yarra was one of many eateries across Melbourne preparing to increase its capacity to 50 as restrictions here were scheduled to ease. Instead, restrictions have been clamped back down following a worrying spike in community transmission and 5 days of double digits new cases. Household gatherings have been reduced to 5 people from 20, outdoor gatherings to 10. Cafes, restaurants, pubs and bars remain open, but only for 20 people.
They have paused where they were going to the next level. That's understandable in the circumstances. We said there would be bumps along the road. We said there would not be 0 cases. We said there would be outbreaks. So the fact that there are outbreaks should not come as a surprise.
It is very frustrating. At the same time, we think of the broader picture of safety for Victorians. So we will be abiding by these laws very strictly. However, we've just got to bite the bullet and hope that we get some good news over the next couple of weeks.
The nation's top medical officials have identified 6 coronavirus hotspots in Melbourne: Hume, Casey, Cardinia, Brimbank, Moreland and Darebin. Authorities strongly advising against travelling to and from these areas for non-essential reasons. At this stage, though, there's no specific rules or laws.
We're strongly encouraging people who either live in those areas or are planning to visit those areas, particularly on the school holidays, to defer their travel.
Police will be going door to door in these zones, issuing fines to anyone breaking the rules. The government has foreshadowed it may impose strict stay-at-home directions for these specific areas, similar to what was seen right at the start of the pandemic.
We have a team of 50 that is starting from today to do door knocking. If you go and get tested, you must stay at home until you receive your test result.
While cafes and restaurants are grateful to have remained open, many are disappointed and frustrated at the last-minute backflip, having had to throw out produce and cancel bookings and appointments.
And a toddler is among those 16 new coronavirus cases in Victoria. Health authorities warn the toddler was infectious when they attended a childcare centre in Melbourne's north. A 4th Black Lives Matter protester has COVID-19, but the case is linked to a known outbreak. 2 more cases have come from the quarantine biosecurity breach at Stanford Plaza. And another school was also closed for deep cleaning after 2 teachers tested positive.
You have to recognise that a single case could re-emerge anywhere in Australia, and so the suppression strategy recognises that, and it's trying to control numbers as much as possible, and that's the approach we're taking in Victoria. If there's a requirement for a stronger action in order to keep numbers suppressed, we've said we'll take those actions.
The Prime Minister says the outbreak in Victoria should be a wake-up call as he warns Australians not to become complacent. Let's go live to our political reporter, Trudy McIntosh. Trudy, Scott Morrison was also stressing, though, we were never going to have a plan to eradicate the virus, particularly in Victoria and New South Wales. So urging some calm as well, I thought.
Yeah, Scott Morrison today, Tom, basically making the case that Australians do have to learn to live with this virus until we find a vaccine. He has been pretty strong, though, on the economic consequences of a prolonged shutdown, or other states using the example of Victoria's outbreak to say that they have to keep their borders closed for longer. But the Prime Minister has conceded that this outbreak that we have seen does serve as a bit of a wake-up call that Australians can't be complacent about the risks.
What matters is that we've built the protections to deal with them. And that's what I want Australians to have confidence in. There will be cases, but the work that has been done to build up our defences, and that's why it's so important that people don't get complacent. This is, as the Premier said, a wake-up call. Australia has fared incredibly well compared to the rest of the world, but that cannot be cause for complacency. COVID hasn't gone anywhere. It's still out there. And it can still take hold. And so we can't be complacent about it, and we certainly aren't as governments all around the country.
The Prime Minister was standing alongside the New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian, who today echoed the New South Wales health advice that they are strongly discouraging people from that state to visit those hotspot areas in Melbourne. She has also said and shut down any speculation that they could be shutting the border with Victoria. We know she's been very forthright when it comes to Queensland in particular, shutting off their borders. But the Premier says people should reconsider the need even to travel to Melbourne, given the high levels of community transmission.
The border between New South Wales and Victoria will continue to stay open. However, as is consistent with the health advice from Victoria and also New South Wales, nobody from New South Wales should be travelling to those hotspots at this present time, and people should consider whether they should be travelling to Melbourne at this point in time whilst community transmission is where it is.
Here in the ACT, there's currently no active cases and there was no new cases confirmed overnight. But nonetheless, the Territory's Health Minister has seized on what's happening in Victoria to warn that there could be further restriction windback in the ACT. They've been doing compliance checks on businesses over the weekend. We had restriction relief on Friday, and they've found a lot of businesses aren't complying with the number of people allowed in their venue. They're seeing people standing and drinking as well, for example. The Health Minister in the ACT warning they could wind back restrictions if businesses don't comply.
So look, this is disappointing and it is really important. I think the situation that we've seen in Victoria over the weekend and the decisions that the Victorian Chief Health Officer and Government have made to slow down their easing of restrictions and indeed to reimpose some restrictions on households is a reminder to us that there is a risk that we will have to go backwards and tighten restrictions if we don't all play our part.
Yeah, I've got to say, you look at some venues and do some quick maths, Trudy, and you just do wonder if all of them are complying. I guess the interesting thing in the ACT is so few cases, 0 active and 1 over the past few weeks, that it's understandable that complacency gets in. We went from everyone just being paranoid about it, the distancing, the using of sanitizer as well, to this feeling like it's almost a fake enemy out there.
Yeah, you do get a sense when you talk to people in Canberra, there is a level of heightened risk that there had been a couple of months ago. People are feeling a lot more calm to be able to go out to venues again. The Health Minister here stressing, though, they haven't been fining people for breaching these rules so far. They've been doing an education strategy, but they say, Tom, if businesses continue to flout these rules, which a lot of them have been, and getting these warnings, they will be willing to impose fines.